Hello everyone, I'm Laura Cornish, Editor-in-Chief of Mining Review Africa, and I'm here at Mining Indaba 2022. I'm joined today by Andy Sherring. Andy is the CEO of a company called NextGenOpX. Andy, it's good to have you with me.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. It's good to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome. So Andy, you've produced this book, Don't Digitize Your Rubbish. Obviously it's dealing with a very topical discussion point that the mining industry is talking about at the moment. Why write this book?
Good question. My background is I've been in operations, running mines, running operations for the majority of my life. And as I've in different parts of the world, different cultures, different commodities, but it always struck me, we're missing something. There's got to be a better way of operating than this. There's everywhere you go, and each operation, even within a single mining company, there's a lot of reinventing the wheel.
Right.
And each new manager that comes in, you clear the decks and you start all over again with your way of doing it. I know how to do this, I've got this. And it's crazy. There's nothing systemic, there's nothing sustainable. So the short answer to your question is, I've lived through the frustrations of operations, and there is a better way. And at the moment, or to date, the mining industry is written off a bit like, yeah, well, that's mining, you know, get used to it. It's tough business. And that's rubbish. There is a better way than that. And it really inspired me to try to solve that issue. What is that better way? So there is a massive need in the industry. There's a need because productivity is going backwards. But there's now a real burning platform because in the face of productivity going backwards, technology is going exponentially upwards. And that is a paradox, that's a problem. Clearly it's a train smash. Everyone's focusing on the digital, you know, a lot of focus on that here and technology, but how do you actually create the platform that enables that is key. So enormous value. You're not talking 5, 10%, you're talking about tens of percent. 20, 30, 40, 50% in a lot of companies, latent value that's lost due to the way businesses are set up. So that's the combination of things that said to me, so, okay, no one else is doing this. Let's actually, what is that better way? And we've spent a decade really, it's all very well to talk about that at a very high level, but how do you then work out the detail? The devil's in the detail. How do you actually do that? And that's what we've taken a lot of time and trouble to get some answers to.
Okay, so when your book says don't digitize your rubbish, what are you actually trying to educate this audience on? I think you touched on it now already, but can you tell us a little bit more?
So digitization is necessary, and if you fast forward 5, 10 years, it is the ultimate in sustainability.
Right.
Because you automate your process, and you get this in processing plants at the moment, where it's pretty well automated, the process. And you've got all the information, all the data, it's all hardwired, and you can algorithmically control and optimize this. The problem with a mining process in a lot of operations is, it's not like that, it's fragmented, and there's people in there and so on. So the key is you've got to be able to align everyone and everything around the right strategy. So if you just focus on the technology, ultimately one day it'll be fine. But in the journey to get there, if you just digitize this dysfunctionality, which is rife in mining, for all the good things we do in mining, there's a lot of problems. If you just digitize that, you're going to automate those poor processes. It stands to reason, this common sense logic. You've got to clean that up. You've got to simplify it. You've got to clarify it. You've got to focus it. Digitize that, you're then going to go forward.
Okay.
If you digitize your rubbish, then you're just going to get repeatable rubbish. That's the concept.
So we're saying that mining companies are digitizing, but they're not doing it correctly.
They're approaching digitization from the technical perspective. Data, information, hardwiring, as if we're going to be algorithmically controlled, you know, at some point. The reality is you've got people, and people are stuck in paradigms. They've got old ways of doing things. There's nothing systemic, nothing sustainable in what we do. The whole way the industry works, generalizing, is you come in as a manager, and the way you prove your worth, the way you get promoted, you come in and you say, here's a mess. We're going to focus on that, that, and that. Clear the decks of everything else. I call it the big stick and the loud voice. You come in and you drive improvement, it works. That's why people do it. That's how you get promoted. Then the next guy comes in, clears the decks and starts again with their way of doing things. It's nuts. It doesn't make any sense. And if you take it to its ultimate form, you look at some of these tech companies, the Amazons and so on, they've taken it to the ultimate form of hardwiring and optimization. And we tolerate too many degrees of freedom in mining. We do brilliant integrated planning at the long-term level, optimized value, and then we allow all these degrees of freedom and it all falls apart and it becomes a mess. We need to turn mining into more of a sausage machine, and it can be done, and it needs to be done. And if we don't do it, we will not get the value from technology that we should. If you look at all of the fantastic software systems around the industry and, at this Indaba conference, amazingly powerful things. And the words they use, our system can do this, it can do this, it can do this. The word can. But does it do it when you put it into operations? Well, the problem is that when we're working with the operation, now people don't kind of get it, and we work with someone and they leave, and so all these great solutions, fantastic technologies are the way, but these companies focus on implementation, the technical solution. It's the adoption and the embedding of this into the operations that's missing. And all of these companies admit they don't know how to do that. And this is what we're coming in and bringing some answers for, practical answers.
So where do they start, Andy? What is the beginning of this process to getting it right?
The starting point is to become clear on your strategy, business strategy. It's not a cookie cutter approach. You've got to get clear on your strategy. Well, that's obvious, right? Company's been running 20, 30 years. They got the strategy clear. Not correct. They actually haven't. And especially when how are we going to run? If you use the soccer analogy, what's our game plan? How are we going to win this game against Brazil or whoever it is, It's different for Brazil to Germany if you're playing, So what's our game plan? What's our operating philosophy? Is it quality focused, value focused? Is it, is it about predictability? Is it about variability? Is it just about guns blazing tons? Different for different businesses. So clear strategy, understand where the value is and the broader objectives, strategic objectives. What's your operating philosophy? What's the operating model that will drive that? And really, if you want to crystallize down what we do, we use integration as a vehicle to really simplify operations and get clear focus, align everyone and everything around the business strategy and the operating philosophy. Again, that is not done. That's the starting point. And then the answer is, how do you do it? It's got to be holistic. If you want to align everyone and everything in a business around delivery of the strategy, you can't just tackle KPIs. You can't just tackle incentives. You can't just tackle org structure. You can't just tackle lean MOS systems. And that's what the business does. What you need to do is look at the whole system. Integration means aligning everyone and everything around a common game plan. And then clear the decks of all the other rubbish that's been stuffed into operations on these poor operators' heads that confuses them and everything's kind of 80% designed, close enough is good enough. No, this needs to become slicker, better designed, user-friendly, simpler, clearer, get rid of the clutter, make it easy for the guys in the front line. So our message is really well received by operators because this is making their lives easier, making it easier for them to do what we want them to do. So right strategy, right operating model, holistic approach, and very briefly, the 5 elements. I mentioned all those different KPIs and things. That's lots of random stuff. That's what we do typically. What you need to do is look at the management process, the transparency of information, the collaborative environment, the integrated systems, the organizational architecture. That defines the framework. And you take a value-focused approach and you align. It's not about rocket science in any of this. This is all common sense stuff, but it's about alignment. And people say usually, yeah, we've done that, we've done all that, but they've done it in isolation. Okay. And each time it's all pulling in different directions and the poor guys in the front line are just heads about to explode. So that's what we do, bringing simplicity. We use integration and a clear framework, which is, I think it's the first time there's a 101 of what is integration, how do you go about it? We use that to bring simplification and make people's lives easier to get the right job done.
So, Andy, I mean, this is a big topic to discuss. We can't cover the details of this book right now, so people must obviously come and read the book because they're going to get all the answers. But if we could end, in my experience in this industry, when it comes to Africa, the easy excuse is, oh, Africa's not ready for digitalization. It's just too far advanced. I mean, what do you say to that? Because it's becoming a bit of an excuse in my mind.
I mean, I think there's some fantastic technologies and fantastic brains. I don't see a problem with the technical capabilities here. It's world class. I don't see a problem with the competence of people, of leaders, but there's a real shift in the last 20 to 30 years of the depth of cohesiveness of management teams. So what we've got to do is help leaders to fast track their experience curve.
Right.
And that's what some of this will do, to get them to think, because otherwise they're just going to follow the same old ways that used to work, but don't work so well now. Why don't they work? Because the complexity of operations and the operating roles gone through the roof, safety, environment, community, corporate initiatives and so on. But teams are no longer 20 years, 15 years, 25 years. Now it's 3 months, 12 months, I'm leaving next week. You've lost that natural integration that always used to happen, doesn't happen naturally. You now need to systematize it and allow these really smart next generation of people who are going to bring great answers, great capabilities to actually come and fast track their learning curve and work better, smarter, and set up their operations in a much, much better way than hasn't worked for the last 20 years.
Right, time for the next generation of mining.
So not a problem I think there's all the capability here. And I think there's a hunger here, which I really appreciate. Some parts of the world, there's quite an arrogance that now we got all the answers. You haven't got the answers. You're flogging a dead horse.
Yeah.
Hasn't worked. To a large extent, the consulting industry has presided over a declining productivity in the industry. It's not good in the face of great technological advancements and so on, better data. So something's wrong, something's broken, there's a problem, and you need to fix it. And you can't, if you've got this going backwards, slide backwards, slow slide backwards, with this exponential going forward, that's a problem. And this brings some answers to that. Not a cookie cutter approach, but some philosophy and principles and some detailed design. It's all very well talking about up here, but it's actually the devil's in the detail of the design, and that's where our magic comes in. We've got some real solutions to how to fix some of those things.
Brilliant. Andy, I know we've just scratched the surface of this topic, but I think I've taken away some key points from it, so thank you. I'm going to finish reading the book. I've already started and it's already got my attention. So yeah, thank you, Andy, for joining me and talking about such a relevant topic in the mining industry at the moment.
Great, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Thanks again for joining me. For more videos from Mining Indaba 2022, please visit www.miningreview.com. Cheers.